right, stop. That's enough. That's it. I can't take this shit no more. Batman and Robin has been the butt of everybody's jokes, and I think what happened is because of social media. Once a few people said Batman and Robin was the worst movie ever, everybody and their mama said Batman and Robin is the worst movie ever. On the contrary, if you really look deep into your soul, if you really look into it introspectively, Batman and Robin is probably the best adaptation of Batman on film that we've ever seen. First of all, we've seen Batman many times swing from building to building in the dark. We've seen him beat up numerous bad guys. We've seen Batman sometimes even lose his shit, okay? But how many times have you seen Batman slide down the tail of a brontosaurus? You can't say that, except for Batman and Robin. And Bruce Wayne, come on, George Clooney, who's fresh off of the success of From Dusk Till Dawn, comes in and gives us the most cool, most swag Bruce Wayne we've ever seen. Okay, not that broody, oh me, oh poor me, my parents have died, I'm just psychologically messed up. No, this Bruce Wayne was a pimp, all right? Even had his own Batman credit card. Don't leave home without it. Put some respect on this movie's name. From beginning to end, you're talking about non-stop action. All right, state-of-the-art CGI. The Robin and Batman with the bat nipples. Come on, man. How can you not love bat nipples? Okay, this makes you just want to milk them, don't it? You got Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze, probably one of the best Batman villains of all time, with that suit that just exudes menace. That chilling voice with the never-ending puns. Tonight, Gotham Freeze is over. A laundry service that delivers. Wow. And how about the most accurate portrayal of Bane that we've ever seen? All right, this is comic book accurate Bane, not that, oh, Gotham's reckoning. Okay, you know, Tom Hardy with the shaking head like this, like he's a bobblehead. Couldn't even understand a word that he was saying. This Bane was huge. He looks like he could break Batman's back. Pause. And I tell you what, I almost shed a tear with the whole subplot of Alfred being sick and Batman just feeling so helpless and curing him and reaching out to Dr. Freeze, reaching out to Mr. Freeze for help, and the arc of Mr. Freeze going from this ice-cold villain to now take 2 of these and call me in the morning. And we get the introduction of Batgirl, played by the lovely Alicia Silverstone, fresh off the success of Clueless, and she comes here as Batgirl, Barbara Gordon, and man, does she knock it out of the park in this role. Puts Robin to shame. Every time Robin gets into one of his chauvinistic moods, here comes Batgirl to say, watch and learn, little boy. I said, SJW, SJW, yeah. This movie is a visual treat, an action-packed extravaganza, good for the whole family. It has girl power. It has family dynamic, all right? Something that Dominic Toretto and them could never touch when it comes to this stuff. And some of the best villains we ever seen. Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy, man, she was so fine, she made my kneecaps hard. This movie is a masterpiece, one of the best Batman movies, probably the best Batman movie ever. George Clooney is the best Batman with the best bat nipples you'll ever see. Batman and Robin is very underrated and it's worth a rewatch because I guarantee if you watch it through real eyes, not what everybody says about it, but just watch it through your own eyes and through your own heart, and I guarantee that you should love this film. I'm out.
Welcome to the 3D movie cinema, where I will critique all of your movies and review them with such masterclass. I am your host, Critic Jake, and today we are looking at the cult classic, Batman and Robin. Batman and Robin was directed by Joel Schumacher. You might know him from Lost Boys and A Time to Kill. And it's written by Akiva Goldsmith, who wrote Batman Forever, another cult classic. And on top of that, this movie stars George Clooney. You know him from Dusk Till Dawn, ER, or as I like to say, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, his finest performance in cinema ever. It also stars Chris O'Donnell. You might have seen him in NCIS, Los Angeles, or you might have seen him in the Max Payne movie starring Marky Mark. But I like to think of him first as Robin, the 30-year-old ward. It is such masterclass that Robin, his ward, a grown man, I make sense. I say that's genius, stroke of luck, because, that literally is what I see masterclass. I mean, this movie, this misunderstood masterpiece of a movie, like, what is it it screams cinema. Like, how does this movie not have 3 or 4 more movies? I mean, you have George Clooney, who is the embodiment, I would say, of Adam West, and Val Kilmer, but with a little bit more edge. You see, I've always seen him as a connoisseur actor, and I really like the take of his portrayal of the Batman. I really did not like his interpretation of Alfred being the father figure. I thought that took away from the nuisance of action that we've got. Like the first second, we get the ass shot. A remarkable shot of the bare buttocks of the Batman. I thought that scene was marvelous. I'm like, yes, give me more. And then we get the front zipper parts, and I'm like, and the nipples, and I'm like, mwah, yes, yes, bonsoir. And then Commissioner Gordon calls him and says, there is a new villain, and it is Mr. Freeze. And he's like, Mr. Freeze, And I'm like, yes, who is this Mr. Freeze? We have never seen him. Does he freeze people? Is he, does he play freeze tag? What is Mr. Freeze? And then we see him in all of his glory of making the puns of ice. Every 5 minutes there is a pun. Freeze well, the ice age cometh. Every ice pun, it's just marvelous. I was even making it too, because there are so many puns of ice. I would say this is really much a cross between Monkey Bone and, Steel starring Shaq. 2 marvelous works of art directed by marvelous directors. I was seeing when they fought in the museum, I thought the museum fights were great. It reminded me of Disney on Ice, and it was so remarkable. And I remember Mr. Freeze says, you are not sending me to the cooler, and then all of a sudden Robin shoots out with his symbol in the air, as well as Bat, and their symbols are shining so bright. It's so marvelous. I did not care for the opening credits. I thought the opening credits was mediocre, but I loved seeing their symbols. And I remember seeing them, up, caught in the ship, and then all of a sudden the ship fucking blew up. And then all of a sudden they surfed, and I thought, wow, I wish I could do the same thing. And I loved how the debris never once touched Gotham and caused, basically meteor showers. I thought that was wonderful. No, we don't need all that bullshit of explanation, because I think we don't need, because we are not as smart to understand the comprehension of the Schumacher film. And I love John Glover. I thought he was terrible in Smallville as Lana Luthor, but here he is bonsoir. He is so unique and eccentric. He is what every villain should be. Someone that screams loud and then makes laughs hysterically. And Uma Thurman, I thought she was terrible as Poison Ivy. I thought everything, all it was sex puns and everything. And the only thing I enjoyed was her sex puns. I did not like her character, her look, or design. And that scene with the gorilla and everything, with that music, I thought it was terrible. And but I did like the Batman when they were bidding against her. And I thought the Bat credit card, I was like, yes! I went to go look for a Bat credit card afterwards. And then on top of that, when Mr. Freeze shows up and says, everybody chill, I was just going, marvelous! Marvelous! That was what I thought it was. And then on top of that, Alicia Silverstone, we don't need her being comic accurate. Instead of her being Commissioner Gordon's daughter, she is Alfred's niece. And I thought that makes more sense, because who needs Commissioner Gordon when we have Alfred? And he's getting sick with a fake fictional disease. We don't need that real disease like in that Dustin Hoffman monkey movie. We want fake diseases, so that way we don't have to worry about real world consequences. I also think how he's getting sick from McGregor syndrome. I always thought him being sick and Bruce trying to care for him was bullshit. I also thought Mr. Freeze being an Olympian decathlon makes more sense than anything else, because why would a normal man be assigned as also being an Olympian decathlon? Of course that would make sense. When I love seeing how Mr. Freeze just falls in there, I thought that was marvelous, how it just looks so dumb to the public. But to me, I call that cinema. And I also like how I'm Mr. White Christmas is playing. One of my favorite the worst Christmas movies ever. And I love how he just marvelously sings as louder, sing, come on, louder. I loved it. Now, and all these actors whose lips are not moving, I thought that was wonderful. It made sense because their voices don't need to match in this quality of film. And I like how Bane is a henchman who just does things. I thought that was a perfect portrayal of cinema. And I also love how, he basically says bomb and Bane. I always like that. It almost reminds me of Frankenstein's monster. And I hate the design look, but I love him being just a mindless henchman. I thought that was him going, grrr. I thought that was so wonderful. And I like how Mr. Freeze is literally just freezing stuff and flying over buildings and cars, because that makes sense logically. And I also love how George Clooney and Robin fight over poison ivy, and they end up beating each other up, only for Robin to fall into ice cream, and then he criticizes Batman. I thought that was great, why poison ivy escapes somehow, and Mr. Freeze somehow escapes as well. And I also thought how they escaped Arkham Asylum made logical sense, how they jumped off a building and survived a long, long fall. I thought that made sense as well. And Mr. Freeze making puns about winterizing your pipes, genius. And I also love how Poison Ivy is basically an adult film star with puns. How she wants sex from every one of them. I always thought that was logic. The female fatale, if you will. And I also love how, Batgirl, basically almost falls over a thing, and Robin is able to catch her with his helmet in one hand and her foot in the other, and they both get out of there fine, and nothing happened. I love how in that scene you have cameos from A Clockwork Orange, the Droogs. I thought that was Shakespearean. And I like how there's a little guy who's rooting. It just makes sense all logically. How, this all makes sense, and Coolio being there as a dealer makes even better sense. And I also think George Clooney, how they destroy Robin's signal and turn it into a bat signal, a Robin signal, makes wonderful sense. And Poison Ivy having costume designs, different design, and they fighting in there, and it becomes like very PC, where he says, how about that person? Marvelous. And then how they fight at the end with different outfits on, it just made so much sense for the theater, for them to change. And how they he defeats Mr. Freeze with love and not heat. But though he makes that pun about the heat is on. I was like, mwah, Shakespeare. And I also think that this movie, especially how at the end he says winter is coming, how he makes that Game of Thrones reference, just shows you he's a big George R. R. Martin fan. And then of course how he uses Poison Ivy's as a guinea pig, even though her blood would probably kill Nora. No, he's not having any of it, because he's willing, because his love is that thick. He's willing to sacrifice and poison his wife's blood. I respect that. And how I like how him and Robin and Batgirl run through a soundstage with a bat signal, and just to show, and then it ends with them. I thought that was great. I think this whole movie is a Shakespearean masterpiece that deserves to be seen. The only thing I dislike about the movie are like the scenes with Bruce and Alfred, or the scenes with Poison Ivy and like the monkey costume and her blowing her love dust and making men walk across her, or the scene where she comes back and kills the doctor, or the scene with her and Batgirl fighting. I thought those scenes were terrible. The CGI works wonderful. I love how he freezes everything, and it was great. It was the best movie I ever seen. I will say this is better than The Dark Knight, because The Dark Knight sucks. Every Batman has been terrible compared to Clooney. Christian Bale is too dark and takes it too seriously. Robert Pattinson, and this is the first Batman who doesn't kill somebody, because every other Batman has killed somebody. And it's not like in Robert Pattinson where he just turns and the guy gets shot point blank in the chest and dies. This one, he just would take the bullets in his nipples. They would bounce back off, because the nipples make him look more masculine. And this neon city makes it more wonderful. I imagine every superhero with nipples and everything. Spider-Man, nipples. Superman, nipples on the suit. I want to live in those worlds. Those Francois Worlds. I imagine I say thank you, Jacob, for letting me have your channel to show this masterpiece. I cannot wait to do this with Superman 4 and Catwoman. Those works of art. If I had to give this movie a score, it's getting an excellent grading. Thank you so much. Oh, what a shit movie!